Okay, so we talk all the time about disrupting education. We've disrupted our podcast in many ways. In fact, what we're about to do comes from a guest that originally disrupted the whole format of our podcast. And we're just doing it again. This is a pre-show. This is not the podcast yet. We'll get into that here in just a minute. But we have like a big announcement to share. Well, we do, and our very special guest does today, Peter.
Yeah, we do. It's funny. We do disrupt our podcast sometimes. So here we are. And we've got some great news from a 200-time guest. I don't know how many times he's been on, but several times, and you'll definitely see him again. Jason Van Nuss has an huge, exciting announcement. Jason, don't keep us waiting. What's your big announcement, my
Um,
man?
so I am so excited to be able to share with your audience first. Y'all been so good to lend the platform and allow me to share thoughts, sometimes cogent, sometimes non-cogent thoughts and ramblings. But I want to share with y'all with your group first that I have accepted a position to be the CEO of the Wynn College and Career Academy. So Peter, you have your chair that you sit on in the back. So I'm going to come over here to the side and I'm going to look at it like that right there is going to be my new employer, and I'm super excited. I get to build a college and career academy from the ground up. And so have a lot of big plans for how you guys can be a part of that and be involved in that. I'm just really excited. It's been 2 years of knowing it was wanting to do this and praying about this job and waiting for this career academy to actually be, funded and it's here and it's in my own community, so I don't have to leave. So I'm just so grateful, so excited, happy, ecstatic, ready to get to work, and just yeah, thank you guys for lending the platform to be able to make this announcement and want to share it with your audience first. So thank y'all.
All I know is when Jason requested this, I was beyond honored that you wanted to share it on the Disrupt Education platform, because when I think about someone really disrupting education and now you're just going to get an opportunity to do it at a completely different level, we want to, share that moment with not only you, Jason, but with our listeners, because anybody who listens to the podcast knows you are a frequent flyer here. And, I think this is just a moment in the podcast where, like these things are happening. We love celebrating, these moments. This is a really big moment for education, just for you, and just that these types of positions are available and these things are being built. And that's a huge signal. And so we're
Yeah,
honored that you wanted to share it with
yeah.
us.
Thank y'all so much.
Absolutely. Congratulations from the entire Disrupt Education Nation. We want to thank you guys, but thank you, Jason, for, not only just talking about it. I know a lot of podcasts just talk, but doing what you do. And now you're in a position to even scale CTE, work-based learning, aptitudes, a lot
Yeah.
of different things into the
Yeah.
lives of many more
And it's
of
going to
our
be
future
awesome
generation.
because the things, and I want you guys, you know that. I mean, you're dear friends, but your audience, I want to be held accountable to implement the things I've said. You pie in the sky, educator say, pie in the sky, when I get that role, it'll be different. And it better be different or I'm a hypocrite. And I want y'all to call me out on it. I'm excited to build this. I have a great board, a great community, and it's not just in my, this is a regional academy. So I'm going to get a chance to serve 6 different counties who are going to be sending schools to this institution, to build that, to line those partnerships, and hopefully to grow it. So I'm going to have big plans, and I'm just excited to build it and to be held accountable to do the things I said I was going to do when I didn't have this job. So what better group to hold me accountable than the Disrupt Education Nation? So.
Thank you, and absolutely huge congratulations. I guess, Allie, we should probably get to the podcast now.
I think it's time. So if you buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, and we're going to kick off this week's episode right now.
One idea that educators should abandon today is you're not the owner of knowledge anymore. You're not, right? You are the coach, you're the practitioner, you're the mentor. You are not the teacher. Like, I don't even like the word teacher anymore.
Where the needle really moves in your learning, it's not this schoolhouse, desks in rows, taking notes. That's not the experience. That's not how you're going to disrupt education.
What are the top 3 things that you remember in a class, not like in social clubs or sports or anything like that, where you learned a lesson?
That's what I think is the opportunity is here in education, is that you can completely rewrite your story. There's so much power in that. Being willing and open and adaptable.
You're listening to the Disrupt Education podcast, powered by U Science. Here are your hosts, Peter Hostrawser and Alli Dahl.
Welcome back to the Disrupt Education podcast. I'm Peter Hostrawser. That is Alli Dahl, and we are here disrupting education. How are you, Alli? What's going on?
I have been in my feels today in the best way, and I just wanted to start this podcast. We sometimes say it at the end, how grateful we are that we get to do this work, and like that the guests that we have and the ideas that are shared, and being able to have the level of conversations that we have on the Disrupt Education podcast. We do not take it for granted. We appreciate every single partner and person who spends time with us and who listens to this podcast. And I mean, we've been doing this for 4 years now, and together you've been doing it for over 10, and it just really feels like the conversations that we're getting to have, the privilege of getting to have this year, feels different.
Yeah.
Like we came in bold. We're still being bold. We're kicking down the door and going for it. But it's only because of all of these amazing people that have been doing this work, sometimes quietly, sometimes for a really long time. And like, we're seeing a lot of fruit in like programs and stuff. And so it's really encouraging. And so like just last week, where I had this awesome conversation with Sandra Adams, and like her start is really, it was like 6 kids, right? You have to go back to her first episode, which came out in January of 2025.
Yeah.
We'll link that. We'll link the number. I don't know the numbers in like the 3. It's before 400. Like
you lose track after 400.
Doing this, yeah, like it's and so I'm feeling really thankful that we podcast and that we get to do this for fun, but it's making a difference. I think that's the other really encouraging part, is that we're just seeing the ripple effect, like the ripples of ripples now in the podcast. So thank you if you listen, if you're a regular listener, this is your first time, we're thankful that you're here. We don't take it for granted. We don't want to waste your time. Like, I will say one of my favorite things about this podcast, and I listen to many, is that we do kind of jump right in within 5 minutes or less. And some podcasts, like you have to wait like 45 minutes or an hour to get to like the question that you want answered. And one thing I love that me and you will both do is we'll ask the number one question we have, like we really want to know, and it's like the first one, and sometimes you're like, whoa, you're starting off with a bang. And I think the same thing, and I love that though, because I don't want to waste people's time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we only got so much time, right? I mean, I really like that lens, and man, it is an honor. It really is. It's kind of weird that we do get to do this, and we do have these conversations. It's to the point now where at my own institution where I'm working, I've actually, we do a lot of presentations, and we do a lot of work around CTE and building programs in CTE. And like I have started to play some of the shorts and the clips that some of you may see on some of the socials that we have to some of the people in the room, and they're like, parents and teachers and educators need to hear that. And it's not Alli and I talking, it's our guest. And that's where it like really hits home. It's kind of like, whoa, what just happened there, So But no, going back to last week's podcast with Dr. Adams and the fluent work, it's just such an interesting thing because right now, and I know I mentioned it on the podcast last week, but I'm really into understanding not being distracted and going in and doing deep work. I'm changing the way that I'm doing my own work in the building, and whether I put headphones on and listen to a certain really kind of like deep work music, or blocking my time where I completely understand things, turning your phone off or putting it away, all these distractions. Um, and it really, I'm kind of playing off of her fluent work, but it does give you like fluency during the day and deep work, and legitimately you can get a ton of stuff done deeper and more meaningful and have even more time to connect and to work with people in wherever you're working. So I don't know. That's she brought that up. I do want to throw out, like, I do have we do have it's not showing up now. It was. Oh, there it is. This is my weird. But this is Mark Isaacs, right? Got to talk with him at FETC. That was great. He had a booth there. And he's now doing some work too, so running around. But like, the Dr. Adams, these are people who will come to your organization and or just follow up or have a conversation with them starting on LinkedIn. That's where we work with a lot of people, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
many conversations we have. We're most definitely most active on LinkedIn. Like if you want to connect with us or any of our guests, they're in our connections on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
unless they're just not active on it, but that's very far and few between.
Hmm.
That's the professional network. Shout out LinkedIn. Okay.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, just sponsor us.
Yeah. Right.
we
Yeah.
we use that platform professionally to do our own fluent work and like to put
Hmm.
out these conversations. And I don't know, with Sandra and she dropped some stats and some information that I wasn't expecting. Like I one of the things, we've both met her in person.
Hmm.
She's one of the few people we've had on the podcast that me and you have both met, although
Yep.
that number is growing now,
Yeah.
but in
Yeah.
reality. Um, but if you meet her in person, you can feel that like organized chaos. Like she
Hmm.
brings like what she wrote in the book, and like that is what she brings in real life. And but we love that. Like she is disrupting education by like not being an academic elitist.
Hmm.
Like I was thinking about that transition the whole entire podcast. She's like, I used to be an academic elitist, and now I run 5 buildings, 23 programs. Like she does a lot of stuff. She wrote a book. I don't know when she sleeps. And I would 100% have labeled myself like an academic
Hmm.
and sure elitist. I don't know about that part, but like the pursuit of knowledge and like living to learn, I embodied that all through school. Like just loved to learn. It didn't, the mode didn't matter to me. Like
Hmm.
I could be lectured to and I would make my own meeting. I could have to do the uncomfortable building a trebuchet in physics class, and I would learn from it. But like I just liked learning. Not
Hmm.
everyone's like that. And right, I took it to a pinnacle with a master's degree and then going back and teaching as a pretty, starting out, pure academic, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
getting kids to learn chemistry for the sake of learning chemistry because it's just like what you do. And like looking at, she's done that transition. So many of our guests have said that. Like I think of Mark Covell was one that
Yeah.
really sticks out to me. He's like,
Yep.
you never go back once you go to CTE. And it's like Sandra is another example of that. And I am going through that and have gone through that in real time on the podcast. Like if you go back and listen to episodes from 4 years ago, my perspective Well, I've always been open-minded.
Hmm.
Like you just don't know what you don't know,
You're right.
right? Like that I've done what, 4 years, so that's like over 200 episodes with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of conversations. That's a
Yeah.
lot of time that you can change. And speaking of change, she said she was going to just revise her original book and then she had to completely rewrite it.
Hmm.
That's what I think is the opportunities here in education, is that you can completely rewrite your story.
Yeah.
Just because you had experiences, like you don't need to label them as good or bad. You can just like, I had these experiences, they got me to this point, and I can pivot, I can shift, I can change. That there's so much power in that, being willing and open and adaptable. Like that's what I think is where you can really disrupt education. It's just having that mindset and like being okay with organized chaos, because I think the key component of my own like academic elitist mindset is that stuff has to be neat, it needs to be orderly, it needs to be structured, it needs to be in order. You got to stack all the cubes in the right way, and like you have to do everything for the students in
Hmm.
education. And
Hmm.
that is like what Sandra is saying, and what you listened to on that podcast last week is like, no, that's out. That's way out.
Hmm.
Don't do that.
That was pounded in our heads as we became educators, though, right? Like that was like if you have to, everything was classroom management. I know we talked about it, but like you were, yeah, you've got to be very managed and everything's got to be perfect. And even like I've once you have conversations with evaluators, you can see, and again, I've been through 8 years of 3+ evaluations every year, just because I moved around, right? As an educator, usually like you get tenured and you get a couple of weeks off, or a couple of years, not a couple of weeks, couple of years off, and then you go on. I've been, but I was just telling my principal this the last evaluation that he conducted was, yeah, early on I would be like, oh, this is starting to be, it's a drag. You gotta continually do this. However, in those evaluations, let's just do the math. You're going to get three at least each year. Times that by 8, and then usually those people aren't the same people, right? So you can see how many different types of evaluations and evaluators come through. And that really has helped me as an educator, because now it's not really about the evaluation itself. It's really about connecting with, I'm trying to communicate to somebody who's seeing what's happening in a classroom that I'm in charge of. Um, Notice I didn't say teach, that I'm in charge of.
Mhm.
And you can have that relationship and discuss. So that's interesting. I wanted to go back to the challenge though, that Sandra said, and see if you know your three. I was thinking about mine. What are the three biggest like aha lessons that you remember in high school? And you've got to
Well,
be better. You've got a better memory than I do, because mine goes way back. I mean, we were stone tableting it back in the day.
I mean, the number one is absolutely building that trebuchet in
Yeah.
physics, like without a doubt. Another one is this slime uh experiment that was in ninth grade. So like right, ninth grade
Hmm.
was this, it was like a month long. You had to like figure out what was in your slime, and not like slime like kids, I guess I should clarify. It's not like
Not
the
like, yeah,
borax
yeah.
and this whatever the recipe is, which I should know as a chemistry teacher, but my brain is like thinking about this other slime.
Hmm.
It was like it was salts and metals, and you did all these tests with very, like, you again, you weren't given a protocol, you weren't given guidelines. It was like, here is your slime, your
Hmm.
sludge. Everybody had different ones, and you were given however many days in class to like figure it out, and you used quote unquote the skills that you had built learning throughout the year in order to do it. And I will tell you, I got every single thing wrong that was in my slime, and I distinctly remember that. But guess what? I learned so much about that process, and I like defended my choices based on what I had learned. It was wrong, but knowing that I got it all wrong, like actually helped me make more meaning of like what the stuff was and where I had gone wrong. Like the whole
Mm,
point of that project was not to get them all correct.
mm,
It was to continue the conversation. That was a
mm,
huge turning point in my, because I like had never quote unquote like failed something. I didn't even fail it. Like the grade wasn't about you getting it right or wrong. And to Sandra's point, she said, de-emphasize grades, the best learning is ungraded. Like, yes, that project was graded. I don't remember what I got, but I know I didn't fail it.
mhm, mhm.
And I learned a ton from it. And then like it was that trebuchet project, and you had to, everybody built one, and you literally launched your catapult or trebuchet across the football field, and how far your ball went was like your grade, and you got
Mm.
like three trials, man. And sometimes mine, it would rocket, across the field, and then the next time it would just like go like 20 feet, and it was like, of course, when you had to like decide which one was going to be like, this is for real. And of
Mm.
course the
Yep.
ones that like were for real, I were like the worst ones. And but the teacher could see that it could work
Yeah.
anyway. And then I would say the third one was probably Romeo and Juliet. We had to, as a group, so this collective efficacy, work together to recreate a portion of the play. So we like read the play, and then it had to be creatively like done in like a genre, or like a style or a theme, so I think we did like in the theme of, it was something with like a rock band. I just remember I wasn't super familiar with the rock band, and my character, like, it didn't really fit, but I do remember watching everyone else's interpretation. And I think my own like embarrassment of having to like act in front of others at that time kept me from like remembering all of the moments of me acting. But watching other people was
Mhm.
very, watching my classmates like design and very creatively come up with, there's this one they did like zombies, like Romeo and Juliet as zombies, like, you know or like the fight scene, um you know it was recreated with, it was like
So you use the
a food fight.
trebuchets for those.
I know. It was like a food fight, and it was from some film. But I
Animal
like,
House? Is that Animal House?
I think that was like two, that was after, I don't know. But
Food fight.
just, it's just interesting to think like those are three very, very important like experiences for me in high school.
Hmm.
And there was lots of reading, and there was lots of learning and working on teams. All of those actually were team based.
Hmm.
And even though I love to read from the textbook and everything, that's not what you remember.
Yeah.
Um, right? Like I can remember sitting in calculus class and getting a phone call that my grandpa passed away, and that's what I remember from 12th grade calculus class.
Wow. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Hmm.
Not saying that calculus was this bad class, but there wasn't like, it was, I mean, I can tell you that we got a lesson, we took notes, we
Hmm.
got assigned homework problems, we did those homework problems. If you didn't finish them, they were homework, and then rinse and repeat. It was the same the next day.
Yeah. 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 Huh. I mean, it's funny that both of us have an acting thing. So I had my speech and drama class, and almost like two or three of the lessons within that class are top. Like I remember one was obviously me doing the lip sync. That's been on several podcasts. I talked about that. One was it was interesting because I really worked learned the team dynamic because in that class we had to do a debate, and I debated the legality, like legalizing drugs, and I just remember the two opposers of that were just appalled. They were just like, no, this, and they went on emotion. And as soon as they did that, I was like, oh, I know I'm going to win this debate with my teammate, except my teammate probably did a lot of drugs and he was just like, yeah, man, let's go, and really didn't help. But by the way, he is in the trades now and he makes a ton of money, which is kind of funny that we're all on CTE. But at the time, he just, education wasn't his thing. And anyway, so like I learned that, and that was all in one class. I was very creative, and I still see it today, actually. Walking through the halls today, when we were recording this, saw a couple of students walking around with the old school camera with film in it. And photography was a class that I love because it was like, I want you to do this type of photography, but you have free reign on what you want to take a picture of and how you want to develop it, da da da. Again, that was something that I really like. So we had kind of free reign on my first two. That goes back to the diaper cell, which was amazing. I will never forget that now. Like I know, oh, there's a nucleus and stuff in there, and yeah, I'll never look at a Snickers bar the same, by the way. But so like that was it, though. You have the time to do it. And then the other thing was just experience, right? So this is going to horrify some people in this day and age because you cannot do what I'm about to say was my number third in school anymore. Teachers would get fired if they did this. So it was a health teacher, and we were studying the effects of cigarette smoking, right? And so we're like, okay, that's cool. Except one student in our class smoked cigarettes, and they had a conversation, and they were like, "Hey, so and so, can you go outside, smoke a cigarette, come back in, and we'll test your reactivity. It's supposed to calm you." Like what people were saying at the time,
Oh,
and it won't give you like the jitters or anything. And we did the test with the student. There were no parents signing off on anything. This kid just went outside, lit up his Marlboro, and then came back in, obviously reeking of smoke. But I will never forget it was correct. Like, I mean, they did like kind of a handshake test and all this different things and everything like that. Um, and yeah, that would never fly today. But it was the experience in really, again, kind of what going back to Sandra is saying, it's the task. What is the task? And I really like that, in how do you design the task? That was a really weird way to design it, but I will never forget that lesson. And you know what? I mean, outside of a few cigarettes back in college, yeah, no, I don't smoke, right? So it kind of got to me. So,
it got to
but
you.
again, that's what I like about like these conversations. I want everybody out there right now to take that challenge that Sandra gave us. What are the top three things that you
Mhm.
remember in a class, not like in social clubs or sports or anything like that, where you learned a lesson? And I would love for people to comment on that because I'm almost going to guarantee that well over 80% of these are going to be experiential and not a sit and get. 100%. This episode of the Disrupt Education podcast is brought to you by UScience BrightPath, the next generation platform helping students make personalized decisions as they move from education to career.
If we truly want students prepared for life after high school, we can't rely on outdated, interest-only guidance to navigate a dynamic career future. UScience starts with aptitude discovery, helping students build a deeper understanding of who they are and how they're wired to succeed. From there, students create plans, develop in-demand skills, validate them through industry-recognized certifications, and connect directly with employers.
The result? Intentional pathways with real opportunity.
UScience is the only platform bringing all of this together at scale, which is why we at Disrupt Education Podcast are proud to partner with them.
Learn more at uscience.com/disrupteducation-podcast. Request a demo and let them know you heard about UScience right here.
I would be shocked if there were any, to be honest. Because
Right.
I mean, like even you sharing like that photography, I was like, oh yeah, I did take photography in high school, and we did an episode on field trips, and we went and did a field trip to Taylor's Falls, which is a very pretty area on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. It's where
Mhm.
a lot of people like it's definitely a touristy location if you're in the area. They have like a river boat and beautiful rock climbing and trails and stuff. And like I don't think this would be allowed today now too. Like no one was like smoking a cigarette. However, we got off the bus and then we were just allowed to like go and walk around like
No.
on the cliffs, and and in this area that was along a highway too, like you could go in between Minnesota and Wisconsin because it's just a bridge and a river, right? Like,
Hmm.
and for, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours unsupervised, just taking pictures. So it's like I was like deep in the woods, like by myself at times, like just and I still have, I made a calendar of it was like, the end of the semester project, and I made like a calendar, and pictures, a lot of them were from that, still in my memory box. And
Hmm.
I love developing those pictures. I love editing those pictures, and because we had to like digitize them, and that is a real experience. That was a cool field trip. And in terms of like, yeah, I don't think they allow that kind of thing anymore. Too
Hmm.
bad, because right, like I so many times when you ask those types of questions, or we get asked those types of questions, and me and you do the reflecting, and I'm sure our listeners doing the reflecting right now, you just come to realize like where the needle really moves in your learning.
Hmm.
And it's it's not it's not this schoolhouse desks in rows taking notes. It just not That's not the experience. That's not how you're going to disrupt education. It's not how you're going to get someone to love to learn, to be curious, and to get them excited to read, right? Like
Hmm.
Sandra said, she's like, people read for fun
Yeah.
and to get information.
Hmm.
Well, and then I'm thinking about Mark Essex, since you, like, I wrote down the book
Hmm.
Captivate, and you shared it at the beginning, right? Like, kids will also want to read if you captivate them with getting them interested in a topic.
Yep.
Um, and you know, all of that is out there, right? Like
Yeah.
we hear these types of messages from different people, and they're approaching it in different ways, but it does come down to, and I like the phrase fluent work. Like, how
Hmm.
do you become fluent in your work? And you're probably going to have to read something at some point or
Yeah.
hear it, right? And
Hmm.
then like apply it. Like, I love the example of kids taking apart an engine, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Um, I I've shared my skydiving journey, and I had to and continue to work very hard in order to progress in the sport. And it doesn't come naturally, like in terms of like when you're skydiving, body position, and like when we do formation jumps and we're trying to like do certain things in the sky. I had to work very, very hard to get good at those skills. They are body skills.
Hmm.
And even like to take someone on their first or next skydive, I take it very seriously, and I do a lot of reading, and I do a lot of like making sure I understand the safety and the training behind it so that I can be fluent in the work, right?
Hmm.
There's this term in skydiving called currency.
Hmm.
And currency is like, you know, it is how long since the last time you jumped or thought about skydiving? Are you current? Right? Like in learning, the same idea kind of applies. Like, are you current in your own learning? Are you having currency? Like, a currency is an exchange, right? An
Hmm.
exchange of ideas, an exchange of thinking. And that is really important in the learning model. It
Yeah.
keeps you active and engaged. But, like, take, I like that you had us think about those experiences, because our listeners can do the same thing. And if you're in education, how do you design and create experiences like those for your own students? Like, now take it to the next step.
Yeah.
Even if you're just a solo practitioner and you don't feel like you're in a space that's like Sandra Adams disrupting education in 5 buildings and 23 programs. She started small, people.
Yeah.
Like, it was one semester, I'm pretty sure. 7 kids. It was a small number. And like that sticks out in my brain because now I look at like the thousands of kids that she's reaching through her work,
Hmm.
all because she decided to probably read, right, and get curious. She even says, she's like, I'm not a literacy expert, but like I've read a ton that helps me see how all these seemingly dis can disjunct, man, the word, it's
Discombobulated.
just fragmented maybe is the word.
You're talking to a kid who's terrible at reading. No, or
Fragmented
terrible at words.
pieces.
Yeah.
And she's put them together in a
Yeah.
way that's really accessible for educators and for leaders and for students.
Mhm.
To kind of dive into literacy and have it not be a cringe word.
Yeah.
That maybe some people, including yourself, Peter,
Yeah. Yeah.
feel about when they've heard that term used in education.
Right. Literacy took me back to, I mean, I don't get triggered often, but like took me right back to like, I have to know Shakespeare and this and, don't disrespect. I mean, I know people love Shakespeare and, I'm just not one of them. And it always seemed like, again, going back to those three things that you really picked up, it was my own. It was something that the educator in the room would connect to the lesson, but I still owned it. I was able to practice something. There was a task involved that was outside of my comfort zone a little bit. But it's interesting because I think about the first books that I actually read, cover to cover. The first book that I actually read was Jurassic Park. And I remember sitting on my front lawn, just chilling in a summer day. I had like a chair and I was out there reading. Um, I don't know, it must have been like 18, 19 years old. And I remember when I read when the last page went by and I'm like, oh my God, I just read that book. And the reason why I read the book was because somebody told me that the book was so much better than the movie. And I'm like, we're watching movies all the time. So I'm like, and it was a lot more horrifying and a little bit more graphic in the book. But after I read it, I'm like, well, I wonder what else is out there. And even then on the education side, the part that I really started to think things differently in education and not like the traditional, why is this kid not doing A, B, and C? It went back, and I know Sandra talked about them as well, as Sir Ken Robinson's Creative Schools, the grassroots revolution that's transforming education. That book um, is a fundamental shift in my thought, my mindset that just like turned it. And it was like, oh, this is a thing. Like I'm okay as a student learner, even though I didn't fit into the education system like a 90% or higher student, right? And it just there were so many whys that I had that was answered in that. And that really starts to change and changing my thought process. So kind of going back into, the education, the things that one idea that educators should abandon today is to put yourself like you're not the owner of knowledge anymore. You're not, right? You are the coach, you're the practitioner, you're the mentor. You are not the teacher. Like I don't even like the word teacher anymore. I try to avoid it, and I know we've talked about that because think about it. Not one of us said that, I really love this lecture. All right. The only way you're going to really love a lecture is if there was probably a story. You might have been at a graduation ceremony or something like that. It wasn't like, I'm going to tell you all this and then you're going to remember A, B, C, and D, right? But we still have educators today who are still trying to control the entire narrative in a room. And that is, I mean, if you think fluent work, that's completely the opposite. So that's one thing that I'm going to take away from last week's episode because it when you stop and think about your own experiences and then you start doing the opposite of what didn't work, that baffles me at this point. And I think that's kind of what a lot of our guests, we're talking about, Mark Covell and Sandra saying, that switch, I can't go back. I mean, that's crazy. So that's an interesting thing there. Um, I don't know what are your kind of you threw the final thoughts at me at the last one. I'm going to throw some what are your final thoughts kind of on this recap and kind of diving in. There's a lot of reflection, a lot of self-reflection that again in this episode. Um, And I really like that. I really like that because I want people to
So
think.
it's gonna, for those listening, I'm feeling it even while I'm talking or I'm listening to you. Like there's a lot of thinking going on while I'm talking and while I'm
Mhm.
listening. And that's when I know like the podcast is it's going really deep.
Yeah.
And there's so many things spinning in my mind. But in terms of your last point of uh just doing what like actually made meaning for you in school
Mhm.
and like doing that for your students, I think besides our our bold word in order to disrupt education, there's a word that I've been coming back to this year in particular personally, and it's this idea of congruence,
Mhm.
which is like every piece in your life is aligned and it's you can you're you're not like living a lie is the kind of the alter way is like you are who you are and you're doing the things and they would be in alignment and it's congruent.
Mhm.
You wouldn't say one thing and do another. That would be incongruent. And so in terms of disrupting education, right? If you're listening to this podcast and then we're not saying like, okay, you can't ever lecture, all right? Like
Mhm.
it's impractical to say that that's never going to happen. However, if that's all you're doing in education or you're allowing that to happen, if you're like in the leadership role and you're not trying to do it yet you know in your heart of hearts that that is not the right way to learn, like challenge yourself to maybe do some organized chaos, get out of your own comfort zone of controlling the narrative, and like strive for congruence in like your thoughts and your actions, right? So you can think, you can have the mindset like, I want to do this thing. And then you have blockers, you have things that like, you're like, well, I can't because we would just challenge you to do it,
Mhm.
right? I mean, that's what we're here on the Disrupt Education. It's like in order to move education forward, you got to get uncomfortable. You got to step outside your comfort zone. I mean, like I jump out of planes as much as I
That's
can,
pretty
and
uncomfortable.
it is. And I will say, like, it's not easy
Mhm.
doing it. Like, I mean, like I have a different level of like the fear around it. But it's still there. Like I'm still like falling towards the ground at 120 miles an hour as I have a parachute. And like every single time it opens, I'm still thankful. Okay.
Mhm.
It's still like, wow, that was amazing. And thank you for the parachute, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
um, we're I think I would the last thing I will say, and comes from Jason Van Nuss, is he says like, let's have a barbecue and we're gonna burn some sacred cows. This episode and Sandra Adams episodes felt a little like a barbecue
Mhm.
in like just being able to release some stuff in education that isn't it's not doing the work. It's not fluent work. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's not easy. Oh, like we'll be the first to admit, like we're not coming at you from a place of judgment or a place of like, uh, we're not gonna judge you in what you're doing or not doing. We just try to encourage and bring these conversations to the forefront so that you feel empowered
Yeah.
to disrupt education and not feel stuck in like that no one's doing this work because people are doing this work. That's where we
Mhm.
feel the shift is that
Yeah.
more and more people are joining the movement of like skills and skill building and just doing education differently than what we saw, what we were taught, and maybe what we did. And so, like, you're not alone, and there are tons of resources and people, including Sandra Adams, out there who would love to tell you more about how to do fluent work and just all of this type of stuff that we're talking about on the
Yeah.
podcast week after week, every
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yep. And to kind of round that out, I do want to remind people this whole journey of disrupt education started with one student, one curious teacher, and one question. How would you change education if you were in charge? Asking a 17, 18-year-old. And here we are, over 400 episodes, 10 years later, 4 years with my wonderful colleague and you're almost like a co-producer, co-everything now. But Alli, you start small, you try it out, and you get consistent, and trust me, it will work. And that's how, myself, somebody who hated the term literacy, and now I read before I go to bed daily, probably on average, not going to boast here, but probably about 40 books, maybe 30 books a year, 30 to 40, and really do it to enjoy myself as well as learn. And that just started with one book. So this has been a wonderful episode. I do challenge everybody out there to do a couple of those things. Go back and listen to Dr. Sandra Adams' fluent work. And man, we're just continuing to be bold here in 2026. And want to thank everybody for listening. Obviously, want to thank UScience BrightPath for just being there for us. That they get it, they understand individual journeys, and obviously, for the most important person in the room is Alli Dahl. Thank you. And I am Peter Hostrawser. We'll catch you next week on the Disrupt Education Podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Disrupt Education Podcast. If this episode sparked an idea, challenged your thinking, or helped you see education differently, well, that's exactly why we're here. We're highlighting real stories and bold ideas shaping the future of learning. A quick thank you to our sponsor, UScience BrightPath, the next generation platform helping students make personalized decisions as they move from education to career. If you're serious about connecting students to real opportunity, head to uscience.com/disrupteducation-podcast. Request a demo and let them know you heard about UScience right here on the Disrupt Education Podcast. For more episodes and clips and ways to connect, you can always visit disrupteducationpodcast.com. I'm Peter Hostrawser. Keep disrupting. We'll see you next time on the podcast.